Yeah.
So,
No, that's definitely that's where the little difference is as far as we don't have mountain lions. I
yeah,
mean, I think I saw one when I was 16, but I can't prove it. Other than other than that, they're not really here.
I'll
So
tell you, I think they're freaking everywhere. They are the most reclusive animals. You just don't see them a lot.
yeah, and it's funny. This one quick side note was when I was elk hunting in Montana last year. I had this bull going. It was like day 18 of the hunt, and there was this bull right on this bench above us. It was right before dark. I'm down below, and he's hammering. I'm like, he's just got to come off this bank on this trail, and I'm gonna have a shot. And all of a sudden, he just shut up out of nowhere, and I'm like, checking, throwing milkweed. I'm like, wind's good. Like, what's going on? Couldn't figure it out. Well, my buddy Tim, that was calling behind me, he had a camera that was up on that bench, a trail camera. And like months later, he went in to pull it. And that day at that time, there was a big Tom walking. It,
There
it
you
was
go.
only it was only 50 yards from us, and I never
Yeah.
saw it. And it's
Oh
just
yeah.
like,
Yeah. And that's where you become a real fan of grace, knowing that knowing that it had nothing to do with that you didn't get eaten by a mountain lion that day. It
yeah,
was literally the fact that that mountain lion was not digging your chili.
yeah, I know,
But
I
yeah,
know.
and there's so many. I wonder how many times I have been in close range to mountain lions, and I mean, you know, I truly don't know. I honestly don't know, but I'm sure that the number, if I ever find out, is going to scare the piss out of me because
Yeah.
it's going to be a big number. But yeah, it's funny. I don't. They're so elusive, and I mean, and the funny thing is, for all the time that I spend glassing, I hunt an area that has a lot of cats. I mean, a lot of cats. We've hunted it in the winter. We've hunted mountain lions out there. I used to have a friend who was. I had a friend who used to have dogs, and we'd chase them out there. I have never glassed one up. I've glassed up everything. Bears, plenty of them. Every animal that lives on that landscape, I have glassed them up. I have never glassed up a freaking mountain lion. And so it tells me they're probably hunting more at night. But I mean, because most of the tracks that we find tend to have been made overnight.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's still a pretty sobering thing. And I mean, I'm sure I'll have an unpleasant encounter at some point, but
I,
I'm not in any hurry for it. And,
I
and I'm more prepared now because I'll either have bear spray or a sidearm on me. But
I've always like been intrigued by them. Like I want to see one, but I don't at the same time. Like last year when I was bear hunting in Montana, the same area I was elk hunting, we were going on this trail on the side through these cliffs and it was thick. And I was like, this trail was kind of weird because it was like about waist high down, all the brush was like kind of cleared out. And then all of a sudden we saw lion tracks in there. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're on a mountain lion trail going around the side of this mountain. And then my buddy was hunting on the other in the other basin, and they saw a mountain lion come chase a deer past them, a mule deer at 40 yards. I mean, what they think happened was the lion was putting on a stalk and they bumped the deer, so it like prematurely
oh yeah,
had
yeah,
him
yeah.
had him kind of come out, and they said it was the wildest thing. It just ran right
Oh,
past
I
them,
bet. I
and
bet.
is yeah, but
We had so it's kind of funny. I shot a deer in 2007, and I had these two brothers that were just kind of getting into hunting, and I was kind of teaching them, big game hunting. They'd done a little bird hunting and stuff in the past, but we are going after big game, and um, so they came out and helped me. I met them, and they came out. I'd shot this buck. I got to signal, called them, and I'm like, hey, do you guys want to see how the other part of hunting works? That after a successful hunt, how you cut them up, how you get them back to the truck. And so anyway, they're like, oh yeah. So a couple hours later, they met me out there, and we're driving back out to this spot. And the funny thing was, we're in two separate vehicles, and I'm in the first one because I know where we're going. And I slam on the brakes. There's a mom, there's a female mountain lion and two cubs, but they're like, sub-adult cubs. They're just about ready to go out on their own in the road right in front of us. And oh my gosh, it was crazy. It was so cool. They sat there and they like chased each other around and then ran up this hill to the side. And it was just one of those moments where you're like jaw on the ground. Did I just see what I just saw? Was that really what I just saw? And so anyway, the funny part was we get out, and I mean it was probably, I'll bet it's a 10-minute drive from there to where we parked and started heading in, because then so we parked and then it was about a mile and a half in from the road where my buck was. And we're sitting back there, and these two brothers, Tim and Brad. Brad's the older brother, Tim's the younger brother, and Tim was the bully that night. Though he kept going, you know, Brad, did you hear that in the brush? Was that the cats? You think they're here already? It was so funny. It made for a really funny night, but we didn't. I mean, man, we didn't get that buck out of there till probably 11:30 that night. But it was hilarious though, and the whole time like, no, 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 don't worry about it, don't worry about it. They're way that was 10 miles away. Well, if you look on a map, it took us 10 minutes to drive there, but that's because we drove around the mountain and ended up almost back where we started. So it was a pretty fun night though, but that was a wonderful introduction to hunting for them. So
Yeah. I could imagine. I'm excited and kind of nervous at the same time when I go to Alaska this year to
that's good.
be
That's
in
Hey, that's
grizzly.
the ultimate adventure there, man.
Yeah, be in some grizzly country because like right now I had bought a 10 millimeter and I was trying to figure out how because I always carried a 40 with me whenever I go anywhere else, but I was like I wanted a little bit more gun and
Sure.
trying to figure out how to carry it with my bino harness. It's like I got everything just stacks, but I want to have it readily available rather than on my
So
waist
there's a
belt.
couple options now.
Okay.
And I know for one, what the harness that you're using, does it have webbing on the bottom? Does it have like the mole webbing on the?
One of them does. I have two separate harnesses. The Sika one I have
Okay.
doesn't, and the marsupial gear one I have does.
So check with JC Custom Kydex. I think that's his handle.
Okay.
Guy out of South Dakota, and I actually picked up one of his that I'm just using on the waist belt on mine. But his new system will actually go underneath your harness, like at the bottom of it. If it
Yeah.
has the mole webbing, it can hook onto that.
Oh, I'll check that
Um,
out.
there's another one. I mean, I'm a Badlands guy.
Yep.
They're new harnesses, and they've got four new ones this year that are pretty cool. I've been actually testing out a couple of them. And here's the funny thing: I've never been a harness guy, never been a bino harness guy. They've driven me crazy. They make you sweat too much, and there's too much noise at the moment of truth. If you're in close glass and something, I want something that I can get that in and out silently, and their new ones have addressed that. But yeah, so I will definitely be using one this year. Um, but they've got one that's really cool that actually hooks in behind the harness.
Okay.
So it's a real neat system too. So I'd check that one out too.